going into, in the last election, I was still in FDC, I have left. I was responsible for heading nomination teams for 3 elections. In the last election, we were supposed to begin with a prayer at Najanankombe. The candidate was kidnapped before, 2 kilometers before Najanankombe and taken. The Honorable Joel, they got nominated first. So as we were being nominated, they were being caned because they had finished the nomination. And these things are going to happen. See, that was a rehearsal. We are now under full military dictatorship, where the head of the family is grown old. I think he has, either the son has taken over the responsibility or he has assigned him. The son said in one of the tweets, in Rwanda, they write about him very well. In Uganda, journalists don't write about him very well. I will kill them. You've forgotten. So when you get beaten, and you see, don't make a mistake. They say sometimes he's drunk. He is not. He said in Rwanda, they write very well about him. Here, he will kill you. Now, a few months later, you're complaining that you were beaten in Kawempe. Didn't he tell you? So really, that's where you are, Shamim, and you journalists covering Parliament. You should have asked Obua, who is a government whip, why did they lock you here when they were beating MPs during the coffee bill debate? He says, yeah, but you the physical person, yeah, that's why I said, I entirely agree. That's why I said that all of us are victims, including you. So I meant it. That's why you're saying you're a minister, but we are all in Parliament there. So somebody else was responsible. So finally, I think we have a duty, because you're not going to substitute our citizenship. We have to continue fighting for our own survival, but also for the survival of the country. I salute you guys. You must take the risk. Don't give up, but also prepare everybody. I remember when journalists were being beaten in Kawempe, you call someone, the phone is off. You try to call the families, and then eventually say, no, we have now been dumped at the Kawempe police station. We are making statements. Statements about what? We don't know. So prepare, as I said, but please don't give up, because we don't have the option to do so. But also be brave. One of the things that must happen on Press Freedom Day is to celebrate those who have been brave. I think collectively, if you are, there are things they will not want to do. But when you begin giving up, because for the first time in my adult life, I have never seen journalists, and I'm not blaming anyone, but abandoning a story. Like it happened in Kawempe, because now you have to choose between the story and life. This has never happened in my adult life. Museveni came here when I was 12 years and 4 months old. He has never done something like that. So I also have no idea, but for me, I have written, because Moses said I should die this year, I have written my will. Maybe it will be the only opportunity to communicate my story. So please, thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Honorable. I'm talking about this as a journalist. I need this information to know it. Why? Because numbers matter in an election. The law matters, but numbers matter. Because the numbers will reflect what exactly happened. If the journalists cannot see the connection between the result at the polling station and the National Tally Center, then there is no connection with the election altogether. If the data that the journalist has picked at the polling station is not being reflected at the National Tally Center, there is a problem with the election. And the person helping us to understand that transition between the polling station and the National Tally Center will be a journalist. I will go and give you a clear example of Kayunga. In Kayunga, there was an election. There's a woman who was called Nakwede. She belonged to the political party of Joel Ssemujju. She knows what she went through. A number of the DR forms she had from the polling station had no connection to what my friend Julius was reading at the National Tally Center. Now, if a journalist is to report that story, how do you begin to report? The story would be, at the polling station, the number of voters were 500. Those who polled were 446. But at the National Tally Center, it is 1,860 who polled at a particular polling station. Now, I will give you more examples from 20. You're going to respond, Julius, don't worry. From 2021. In 2021, I'm giving specific examples. And these stories tallied with what the observers saw. So the observers were at polling stations and discovered that the wrong ballots had been delivered at Nalukolongo TC polling station. The polling station was called Bulwa polling station in Wakaliga. And Electoral Commission was alerted that the ballots that had been delivered to Nalukolongo TC at Bulwa polling station were not the right ballots. So the Electoral Commission went back to look for the correct ballots and bring them. But if the media and the observers had not been at that polling station to see what was happening, then probably the election would have gone ahead with the wrong ballots at the wrong polling station. Until you tell that story, and until the data is captured, many years later, you would have forgotten. So the role of the journalist cannot be more emphasized when an election is taking place in terms of promoting transparency, integrity, fairness, and credibility of an electoral process. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Charity Ahimbisiwe. Honorable Ssemujju, how do you think journalists should approach the electoral season amidst the changing times that you speak of? We have a few months away, and we shall be going for fast. The primary.
They should begin by writing their wills. The Constitution has been overthrown. Serwanya spoke about Edmutwe. And Museveni's son said, I am going to castrate him with in basement learning Runyankore. So here you write your wills, we go and see whether we'll survive, because it's going to be hell. I mean, even a by-election 2 kilometers from the state center, people can be beaten the way they were beaten. I remember 2005, 2006 election, the Honorable Livingstone Okero was representing Chua. He was beaten, his people were beaten, but he's far away. He told his story after election. So really, where we are now, I think we all prepare for the worst, because it will happen. Charity was speaking about journalists being taken to UCC. But the one who ordered was Mohoz. He said they should go there and they teach them. And all of you are afraid. You will scatter around. There are very few journalists who won't even write about Mohoz and what he does. But he's taken over control of the country. I mean, his father is officially 80. And I'm saying officially because he said he doesn't know when he was born. One of the daughters assigned him a date in September to celebrate a birthday. And he does celebrate, by the way. A date assigned to him by one of the daughters. So really, when you see bigger NRM people trekking to Saleh, others to the sun, I don't know where our boa goes, maybe to one of the daughters. So that's where we are. That is our situation, unfortunately. That's where we are. A lot of pretense by everybody. This fight we must undertake, all of us. It's now a fight for survival. You will be beaten because in Kawempe I was told what they wanted. I mean, similar like what happened in Parliament. The things they wanted to cannot do them in full view of cameras. You first clear the cameras. In my politics, each time we had a demonstration and I see them clearing cameras, it was time to take a decision. Do I stay or I leave? Because they begin with the cameras. If there are those with the notebooks and pen, you follow. And then what follows, God knows. So as you guys congregate here for press freedom, it is no longer factional. It's no longer just freedom of a section. It is just freedom of everybody. Whether you're a minister in a government, whether you're an MP, whether you're a journalist, this country has been taken over by one family and they're going to herd you like cattle. Even their cattle, the other day I was coming from Zimbabwe. When President Yoweri Museveni's cattle are crossing the road, there are policemen. You don't come and hoot to disturb them. So his cattle are enjoying more freedom than human beings. And then human beings sit here. I am telling you, I am not fabricating a story. I was coming. They stopped us from far that the cows of the big man are crossing the road. So you don't make a noise by hooting. So cows of the president have more freedom than human beings.
On our best, we can, as stakeholders, engage with the fourth estate, that is the media. I wish to therefore congratulate the Ugandan media fraternity on this occasion where you are celebrating the World Press Freedom Day. Congratulations. I wish to state in summary that such a day is a day of reflection. You must reflect individually, but also reflect collectively, just like you are gathered here. It is a day of engaging the different stakeholders, and we are all gathered here as stakeholders. I can see the media fraternity, I can see members of parliament, I see electoral commission, stakeholders of all walks of life, a government minister. It is a day that for me, I normally keep telling people that it is a day you must be reading from the books of Acts of the Apostle and the book of Revelation, not the book of Lamentations. That is one book as a Christian I do not read, the book of Lamentations. In all opportunities and challenges, I would always want to translate them into achievements, into a legacy. And therefore, I normally read either from the Acts of the Apostle, that will indicate action, or from the book of Revelation, what are you revealing in terms of the way forward, of the challenges we face, of the opportunities we have, of the way forward. And it is a day we also celebrate the milestones we have made and the journey. One of our former presidents is quoted to have said, there is freedom of speech, but I cannot guarantee freedom after speech. And I believe if he was still the one superintending over the country by the time I entered, and I found my good brother, the Honorable Ssemujju, on the floor, I do not know whether his right after speech would be guaranteed. But under this arrangement, his right of speech is guaranteed. His right after speech, we are all here, you have all recorded what he has said, is guaranteed. He is going to walk out of this conference hall. If he has not yet had breakfast, he will enjoy it to the maximum. The time for lunch will come, he will equally enjoy. But this is the journey where we are coming from. And very, very finally, it is a celebration for us to digest the entire chapter 4 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, as amended. Chapter 4 of our national constitution on the Bill of Rights, fundamental rights and freedoms, is the longest chapter of our national constitution. I do not know whether being the longest chapter, it is also taking us time as Ugandans. It is taking us long time to digest it. But each and everything we are talking about is well captured in that chapter of our national constitution. So I presume that such a meeting, such a celebration must be able to digest chapter 4 on the Bill of Rights. You see where we have done well, where we have not done well, and collectively come up with your way forward. I believe that even Honorable Ssemujju or myself, who are present in this assembly and are members of parliament, can be able to forward the resolution of this day on the floor of parliament, including to government, in order for us to do an audit of where we are coming from, of freedom of speech, but no guarantee for freedom after speech, to the time where we have the longest chapter in our national constitution, guaranteeing in principle your fundamental rights and freedoms and my fundamental rights and freedoms. They are guaranteed in principle under the law. Implementation can be a discussion for another day, but under the law, it is guaranteed. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, a story is told of a man who had a bird in his hand, and he posed the question to a congregation like yours, that is this bird alive or dead? If I pose this question, the answer will really vary, or the answers will vary. Others will say the bird is dead. Others will say the bird is alive. But one member of the congregation stated that, man, look here. The life of that bird is in your hand. You can decide to squeeze it and it will die. You can decide to release it and it will fly. On this note, let me state that the future of press freedom, with engagement with the different stakeholders, is in your hand as the practitioners. You can either choose to squeeze it and you will kill it. You can squeeze to release it and it will flourish. With these words, I declare this engagement of the World Press Freedom Day officially open for God and my country.
A classic example of the bird being in our hands. I would love to say, Honorable Hon Ssemujju, I think the bird has been shifted in your hands, and I feel like you're suffocating it to die. And I'm looking forward to a day that you will let that bird fly. And let me give my argument. Yeah. And Honorable Bua, I think that if you keep suffocating this bird, we will slide into a nation in silence. And this is why. Let's break it down here. When the media, which is supposed to truly reflect what society is, usually they call it a mirror. This is what society is. But because you're suffocating this bird, this mirror is increasingly getting crushed and representing a distorted image of the community that we live in. And I feel like the most recent elections that we had in Kawempe, where you saw yourself, journalists being beaten by men in uniform in your government, commandeered by the chief military people, targeting journalists who are wearing the word called press with a microphone and cameras, and they are beaten, some of them battered, and some of them broken. You're squeezing a life out of them. You're talking about Abu Bakar Lua of the Daily Monitor. You're talking about the Spark TV journalist who was beaten. I don't know if the top TV reporter journalist who almost lost his eye can bear what you're saying. I don't know what you can explain to Irene Abalo, who has gone through multiple surgeries and lost her ability to go and report on the field. I don't know what you tell Ashraf Kasirye, who was, we all saw the bad pictures and he's still undergoing surgery up to now. Your government is squeezing this bad. You are beating up journalists and sending a strong message, especially as we head to elections. This is why you are squeezing life out of this bad. Honorable Ssemujju, many of the media houses here depend on government advertising, and because they're the main advertisers. Let me bring in the political theory here, and what has largely caused what we call self-censorship. You have media that heavily relies on advertising. The president added recently that all advertising should go through to government-owned media houses, and that really crippled the media in this country. The National Association of Broadcasters, alongside other people, went to the president and begged him and said, "Sir, we do all these things that happen. We want you to release the taps." He eventually said, "Well, I have released the taps, but I'm closely monitoring." And where does this end? It ends in the fact that the invisible hand of the media entrepreneurs infiltrate our newsroom policies to control what we put out. I've been in the media for the last 17 years of my life, and I am alive to the fact that we get live feeds from the field showing that military people are beating people, and the producer says, "Do not put that on air." I have been in a place where the editors meeting in the evening decides which stories should go out, and some stories are dropped not because they lack the ethos of good journalism, but because we are worried of what will happen to this media house tomorrow. There are those that have stood their ground, and I want to appreciate the Nation Media and the Daily Monitor specifically for continuing that. But we know what has happened to the Daily Monitor. They have been closed before. So when you have us having self-censorship, which in my view is one of the biggest threat to press freedom in this country, because of the fear of the unknown, what could happen if we put out this? There are people in this room even who are worried to call people out as journalists. We woke up to a disturbing tweet about Eddie Mutwe. How many of us have actually talked about it? Some of us fear like, oh, if we speak about this, what will happen to me? What will happen to me? The media houses haven't even picked it up yet. Basically, I'm saying that you're squeezing a life out of this media in this country to freely express themselves and give a true reflection of what community really is. And I would love you, sir, to take this message to the people in power. Please note that the day people stop expressing themselves, including the media, because for now you're suffocating us, the day we will lose that freedom to express ourselves entirely, I worry what is going to become of this country, that people will not be able to hold people accountable to these things. The people who beat up journalists in the previous election, has there been any form of accountability? The people who beat up the reporters recently in the Kawempe by-election, have we had any form of accountability? Except just word salad and condemnations. I don't know what we are going to tell to reporters whose lives have ended because there's not been any form of accountability for those who practice. So like I say, sir, you're squeezing a life out of this bud. Let it fly. Thank you.
One, we depend on internet as journalists, especially when we are doing our work. And these journalists will tell you that majority have their media houses, others up country, others I've already told you outside the country. But the cost of internet is still high, Mr. Chairperson and Law. And we believe that with your intervention, we believe that if we work towards reducing the cost of internet, the journalists will be able to do their work well and enable the public get the information at the right time without any delay at all. We have a challenge of the poor pay of the journalists. I don't want to say that only journalists that report from Parliament are well off, but you will see that we also have journalists that are not well off. Because the journalists are not paid by Parliament, but they're paid by the different media associations. And you see that a journalist is paid per story. Some of the media houses do that. And the journalist is being paid 2,000, 5,000 per story, depending on the media strength of the media house. So we believe that we need an intervention by Parliament and also by government to ensure that this issue is addressed. Last year, all of us saw what happened in Kawempe. Most of my colleagues have talked about it, but we believe that as we're heading for the 2026 general elections, we believe we can have an engagement with government, with the different security organs, and with the Electoral Commission to see that what transpired in Kawempe does not happen again in the 2026 general elections. We believe journalists are supposed to do their work without intimidation, without fear, and objectively they will be able to do their work. But once you pressurize, once you intimidate journalists, once you put them in the state of fear, then they will not do their work independently. So the different stakeholders, government, and then the different security organs, we believe that we can create an environment for the journalists to cover the 2026 general polls without fear, without intimidation, and they will be objective when they are doing their work. So we believe it's not too late. We saw what happened in Kawempe. It can be a lesson to all of us, not only to the media, but it can be a lesson to the government, to the Electoral Commission, to the security, and to the other organs that usually get involved in this election. Last year, we have also seen instances where some members of the public also don't understand the importance of journalism or media. We have gotten a number of reports or cases where members of the public also get involved in harassing members of the media when they are doing their work. We believe it's high time also to start engaging them and also start sensitizing the public to understand the role of media, that media plays a very vital role. And when media is blocked from doing its work, then the country may face doom, because information is power. And once we say information is power, we believe that the public can make judgment whether after getting an information. So when you give them wrong information, when you give them some good, positive information, the public will be able to judge and make positive decision or for what they think their community look like, families, districts, and then the country. So let's provide an opportunity to see that the public is given information to make the rightful decision in terms of choosing their leaders, especially when we are approaching the 2026 general polls, and this can only be done through media.
I know your president was shy, so he pointed the guns elsewhere. He said, Parliament, help us, and so on. And we've got a part to play. We've got to raise our voices like I'm doing now. But media houses, let's get serious. Stop exploiting some of these young people. You send them to do a story, you've not given them transport. But the media houses, I don't know how many miles away, and you're sending them, whether it be to Parliament or wherever. What you want is a story. The fellow has no transport, has no lunch. They've not been paid for 3, 5, 6 months. And you expect a story. What's wrong with you? Some of you fear to clap because your supervisors are here. And I'm also told we are live. I've seen some bosses here. Mr. Ben, it's good to see you. He's one of the good bosses, I'm sure. But we need to deal with these matters. Really, really. To citizens, let us support the media. Question it, yes, but defend its right to exist and to tell the truth. And to the media, we ask you to keep holding us accountable, whether government or opposition. You must shine the light. Of course, do so with integrity, professionalism, and courage, because that is what earns you public trust and strengthens democracy. Ladies and gentlemen, if we want a future where democracy thrives, we must defend the freedom of those who speak truth to power. Let us ensure that the press in Uganda is not silenced, sidelined, or shackled, but supported, protected, and respected. Because a free press is not the enemy of the state. It is the backbone of a just and democratic state. Let us walk that path together with courage, clarity, and conviction. And as we always say, journalism is not a crime. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.